Unfortunately, I couldn't actually undo the nuts on these properly. It just chewed through the studs. Everything's very rusty, very crusty. The boot lid's off now.
Yeah.
Now I've got the boot lid off, I can get the fuel tank out, which kind of makes sense at this point. The boot floor is shot. I mean, there's nothing holding it together anymore. Normally, you would drop the fuel tank out the bottom of the car and undo the bolts, but I'm not going to bother with that. I'm just going to cut across here to this inner wing here where the rust is and just take this piece out. I can chop off the rusty fixings and just lift the tank out. It'll be a lot easier. All my batteries are running flat, but we're through enough. I just have to wiggle this out. There we go. That's yeah, there's not a lot left of that. I have to cut a little bit further back on the boot lid here into, I suppose you could call it good metal. It's as close as it gets on this car. This allows me to get to all the fixings for the fuel tank. Normally, I think I said before, you would drop it from the bottom and you have a nut and bolt here and the other side of the bolts underneath this rail, and the same again at the back. There's one here and one here. Because of access, I'm going to take the flat wheel to these. I'm not going to try and undo any of these. I don't think it's worth it. And we'll cut this one off with the split wheel, and then I can actually lift the tank out the top. That way I don't need to do anything with the exhaust. I can just take the whole thing out. It's a lot easier. I also of course need to just disconnect these, which amazingly aren't seized up, which is brilliant, but I'm just leaving them connected for now to stop anything going in the tank. Worth noting, when you undo stuff like this, don't try and go hell for leather with it all at once. You want to tighten it and loosen it as you go, and if it feels like it's getting tight at any point, just go back and forth a bit, and it helps clean out the threads. It's actually going quite nicely. Right, everything's disconnected here and the bolts are gone through, so there's just the three that hold it in. Should be able to just lift this out. Yep, no problem. Well, that's a decent day's work. I only really planned to get the 4 doors off the car, and we got quite a bit further than that. So these are the passenger side doors and the boot lid and the fuel tank, which does seem to be good, and after I removed it I found out it still has some fuel in it. It's probably 4-star from the 90s by the smell of it, or varnish now, so maybe I was a little bit playing with danger on that one. The pile of just rust flakes underneath the car is growing. Yeah, there's not much to go on it now, but there's a lot of mechanical stuff to remove and the glass to come out. After that, there's not really much that we're going to be saving off this, but I suspect a lot of this mechanical stuff is going to fight us, because it's probably not been disturbed since the car was built in the 50s. And while I've been busy on that, Pat's been redoing the driveway. And these are the other 2 doors, which we'll put in storage. There's lots of useful bits on them, but it's easier to store them complete like that. I've been going through and taking lots of photographs of the wiring routes so that I know where everything is supposed to go. And of course, this is the back of the car, and you can start to see some of the serious rust problems here. So this is the body mount for the back here, and although this part of the body is still attached, the stuff that goes between it, with the exception of the floor I chopped out, isn't really there. On this side, however, the bolt for the body mount is just, it's gone. I don't know where it is, it's just disappeared. The chassis seems okay. I think the chassis back here would actually clean up perfectly fine. It's a bit scabby looking, as chassis tend to be, but there's no big rust holes or anything in it, which is good. Original fuel lines there, which we're going to try and save if we can. It all depends how they're routed. And lots of things on the back, such as brake rod here, the axle we want to save. Probably won't save the exhaust. I can't see us using this, but maybe we will. Who knows? There's the leaf springs and the hoops for the axle there, the wheels obviously. So there's lots of good stuff underneath here. But the frame, I did notice, you can see just up here, woodworm has got into the frame. And given how extensive the woodworm damage was inside the car, that probably means this frame is not worth saving. I had hoped that this corner of the car might be okay, but I'm not so certain now. And when you see the condition of where body panels kind of layer up, it's not a happy story, really. There's a lot to fix here, and of course it's gone on these corners just like ours has. Battery box is salvageable, so we'll probably take that out. The cables for the battery are also in pretty good shape. There's the shock absorbers back here to get out. You can see over here where the bodywork's actually collapsing away, and there's a body mount just there, but the body itself in places is starting to sink down on the chassis as it's rotted out. And this is where the fuel lines pop out for the reserve tank. So this is the control arm for the reserve tank, which is operated with this up here. It's been a couple of days, so let's see what we've got in the bucket. It's not as green this time. And no, I still don't have gloves. Yeah, we'll just give this a quick rinse. It does get less effective the more times that you put things through, so it might not actually be that effective this time round. We shall see. The efficacy of this has, I think, worn out now, so I've just disposed of that. And you can see this is all the sort of sediment, rust, crystals, all that sort of thing that's left in there. So we'll rinse that out with plenty of plain water. But I'm quite impressed with how the water pump turned out. Almost all the rust that was on it is gone. It no longer has that rough texture, it feels quite smooth. That's cleaned up really well. I'll make a new batch and we'll soak everything again, and that will get the rest of the surface rust off this one, which is no longer brown, well, no longer as brown. The back cleaned up much better on this one actually than the front. Not sure what that's about, but it's just how it is, I guess. Yeah, and these two little screws are from the bracket for the washer bottle. It is incredibly low effort and incredibly effective. The only thing you have to be aware of is items do flash rust fairly quickly, so if you do this, if it's something you're going to paint, get some primer on it straight away. If it's something that's to be kept bare metal, get some light oil of some description on, just to keep the flash rusting at bay, and then you should be fine. Made up another batch, make it up with warm water, seems to work better. And these are going to be the next bits going in. This is the hubcap that was still on the car when we bought it, and there's not really much rust to speak of. It's mostly just, you know, discoloration of the chrome. It's gone green instead of brown. Water pump bits, little bracket, now that I know it's safe for delicate stuff, and we'll dunk this in for a couple of days and see what we end up with. Gloves. I finally got some gloves. That'll probably make this a bit easier. Everything's been soaking in here for a couple of days. I put some of the other bits of the water pump in here as well. And, oh yeah. This time it shifted some of the old loose paint off as well. Yeah, no, I'm happy with that. That hubcap should have come up lovely. Let's see. So this was the impeller for the water pump. This is quite bad. And that's pretty good. I'll give that a second soak though, I think it would benefit from it. But the bulk of that rust that was visible on it is gone, so I'm happy with that. New problem is these gloves are very short. And I can't see anything. I'm pretty sure these bearings are completely dead, but I wanted to put them in to see what would happen. I had nothing to lose with it. I was expecting these to be shot, and it's not good. But the rust is gone, so that's something. This piece. Ah, yes, that's the pulley. And this one was also quite bad. But I couldn't tell what was paint, what was corrosion. It was all just a massive jumble of a thing. And there's still quite a bit of grease on here as well, surprisingly. Expecting that. Yeah, that's cleaned up really well. I've hooked the thing out. So this is the hubcap that was really, really green, but not very rusty. And yeah, that's looking pretty good. In fact, let's do what we did before with that paintbrush, because that seemed to work a bit better. does look like something weird is happening with the plating on the back, and it is a little bit damaged, but considering what it looked like before, it's quite a difference. It looks like we've gone through to the base copper. If I remember rightly, on chroming you have your base material, which is often steel, and then it gets copper plated, which helps smooth all the surface out, and then it gets the chrome on, and this here is the chrome and the copper that's come off the base material, unfortunately. That's nothing to do with the oxalic acid, that was like that before it went in here, and you can see there's a lot of damage on this edge, which I think is probably what's caused it. I can probably trim this back, rust treat it, get it reasonable. It'll never be perfect, but I think I can get it reasonable enough that, you know, it's passable. It is shiny after all. That's a big improvement. These parts that have been in here, I'm going to rinse these off and let them dry, and then we're going to put some of the other parts in that have been through and see what we end up with. I'm going to cycle quite a few things through here over the next few days, but I shan't bore you with every single one. I think we've seen how impressive this stuff is for an incredibly low amount of effort. So give it a try. It looks like it's pretty good for a wide variety of things. It's time to get this windscreen out, and hopefully the rear screen as well. Now, we've had a bit of a poke at this already, and most of this frame is rotten on the bottom, so this may not come out the way it's supposed to because of that. Normally, there are several little brackets with flathead screws in that go into the wooden frame. On here, it's rotten in this corner. This is an aerial wire, because at some point in its life it had a roof aerial installed. And normally there's a trim up here, there's a trim down this side, which is all gone. And normally you would also have to remove the dash rail. But because the dashboard in here was rotten and came out in pieces, we haven't removed it in the usual way, which is that you would normally go for these brackets here, which again are flathead wood screws. You'd unscrew those all the way across and get the dash rail out, and then that would give you access to these lower brackets. Everything's been soaking in penetrating fluid for a while, so I'm really hoping these just unscrew, but they probably won't. I did attempt to unscrew this one, and it quickly became apparent that's not going to happen. It's quite rotten, so this might not be that bad a job. While I've been doing battle with the front ones, Pat's been busy working on these rear ones, and some of them have actually come undone, which is great. Some are going to have to be drilled out. But he's got this end plate off, or got it unscrewed at least. Now he's just trying to lever that off. There we go. So that bracket there is what makes up the internal frame, and you can see the rubber seal, and the bracket puts the tension on that so that the glass seals against the bodywork of the car. It's not a system that we're familiar with because we're used to newer cars, but it does mean taking everything apart is a bit of a pain. We'll keep going. Up at the front, these are the remains of the screws I've been getting out, and yeah, all of this rail on here is rotten, which has made my life sort of easier but also more difficult. And I've got a couple, this one's already been removed before we got here, but the ones on the side look like this, so I'm going to have to drill those out, unfortunately. Pat got all the frame off there. Only 2 of the screws needed drilling out, which was quite impressive. And then inside the car, you can see Pat's just peeling off the old rubber there, which I don't think he needs to at the moment, but you have to bring the glass out through the back of the car into the cabin rather than to the outside. So Pat's just going to very carefully lever this out. It should just go on its own. You ready?
Yep.
I think if we just push on the top,
Nice and slow.
I can feel it releasing. Oh, it's going at the bottom. You got it.
It's still stuck on there.
Oh, I see what you mean there, yeah. Yeah. Hooray! There we go, one glass, and they're curved on these, and I think they're toughened as well. So we're going to be very careful with this and put it somewhere safe. So this is the old seal on the donor car, and it's in a pretty bad way. Ours is heading the same direction, and the glass sits in a groove here, which is why you can't push it out that way. The seal goes in, I think, on the glass, and then the metal clamps, these things here, screw onto the woodwork to hold everything together and seal it up. Yeah, so if you need to remove one of these or this style of window, that's kind of how you have to do it. Hopefully it's going to be easier on this one, which does need the seal doing, but has been kept in the dry, so hopefully we won't have trouble with the screws being seized and stuff. But now we know how to do it. These nubbins is what remains of the screws that hold the front windscreen in, and most of them are just completely rotted. And these are the ones that came out of the rear screen. They look to be the same, so we'll be keeping these as reference. And these were in surprisingly good shape. Only 2 needed drilling out on the back. We've already got all the screws out. I've used the angle grinder to cut through the last couple, and this screen goes out that way rather than into the car. Ready? Am I still stuck on the side or something? That feels like I've missed something. Oh! Nope, it was just snagged. Let's put this somewhere safe. With the windscreen out, we get a better look at the condition of the frame, and it's not great. I mean, dead spiders aside, there's quite a lot of rot up here, which isn't good. Both wood and steel rot. And in this corner where the roof aerial's been run, it is really bad. The wood's very soft, and it's just collapsing everywhere. It would be a lot of work to restore this body. I don't think anybody will, realistically. So, to make my life a little bit easier, I'm going to be taking these rear quarters off. I want some of the structure and I want the wings. It'll also make taking the rear axle and all that lot a bit easier too. I've already marked out my cuts, and hopefully that will allow me to take these off in one big chunk without too much effort. Try to avoid the bulk of the frame in there. There is also woodworm in this corner, which again is going to need a lot more repair work, which we're not going to do. So angle grinder time, and we'll see what we end up with. Well, I thought I'd try and be careful and take off a nice neat section I could strip down off the car, and it's had other ideas. For example, this here screws into the wooden frame, and that holds your rear wing on. Except there's no frame. It's just crumbled away. It's just gone. As I've been trying to take this apart, it basically dismantled itself. I was trying to chisel through here. Because there's metal and wood, I've got to be careful what tools I use in this gap. And it's very soft, it's full of woodworm, which isn't great. And yeah, I'm feeling less bad the more I take apart, I'm feeling like this is what's going to happen. But the other thing, it's like this brace here, which holds up the boot floor, there's no strength in it. Like where it's kinking there, it's just soft. Yeah, it's sad, but it's how it is. So I've just got to figure out now which bit of this corner I need to chop to free it, because it's different to the sections I thought I wanted to free. And then that will be off, and that will give me some access to stuff behind. The wing is still salvageable, so I will salvage that. But the rest is just toast, unfortunately. Turned out I started with the difficult side, in part because I didn't know what I was doing, and in part because it had the most structure. The driver's side one, I didn't really need to use tools. I mostly just pulled it off, which is not good. Now, happily, the wing itself seems to be in pretty good shape. There's the plates here that hold it into the frame, which obviously aren't great, but the actual panel is very salvageable, so I'm happy about that. That's the main thing I wanted. Same goes, I suspect, for this one. I do need to strip it down a bit further to find out, because it's a little bit more together. But the wooden frame, anywhere I'm finding the wooden frame, there's just really chronic rot in it everywhere, and woodworm damage. It's not in a good way. Looks a bit weird without the back end on, but I suppose cars do. So this side, I had hoped that there might be some salvageable frame in here, which would have helped our car out. I wasn't terribly optimistic, but I thought, you know, there's a chance, there's a slim chance. It's terrible. Bearing in mind, this is the end of the frame here on this donor, and our frame ends down here somewhere. Also, it's got a lot of rot in there, and woodworm damage. And then we turn our attention to the inner arch, which is also completely rotted through in numerous places, very badly. So all of that would need to be rebuilt. And honestly, quite a lot of this, you just grabbed it and it just came off. It's definitely past it. So I don't feel guilty at all now doing this.